Hello, welcome to a Tuesday night edition of Hobby Hotline. I have Victor and Ryan with us tonight. We are got a Tuesday special. How you doing, Victor? How you doing, Ryan?
Not too bad.
Go Phillies.
Yeah, I couldn't get the login going, so somebody's gonna have to keep me up to date on what's going on here. We can be like real time. We'll be like the Manning cast of cards in World Series.
There you go.
There you go.
Ryan, you've had a quiet day.
Quiet?
Right, nothing going on today.
Oh, I mean, a little bit. I mean, there's one grading company that got robbed, but that's about it from news that was dropping.
I mean, you kind of dropped that in subtly. For those of us that weren't texting all day, why don't you just go ahead and let's start off the show with the big news.
Yeah, so FCG out of Dallas ended up getting robbed. I heard the news earlier today. Sports Card Radio dropped it, and they said a grading company was robbed, and there's a bunch of different names on the list. Figure is not one of the big four companies, because I assume, and this is just a total assumption that they have a bunch of security. So it's like, all right, well, on their list, it's either FCG or HDA, and it was FCG.
And I saw some follow-up from the videos from there was some content put out, and one of the cards was an 86 Fleer Jordan. I don't know if you saw anything else online that some people were putting out on social media.
That's what I've heard so far with the 86 Jordan. I'm not too sure all the other ones. I mean, I think there was a mention of it, but can't remember off the top of my head. But in my opinion, it's always sketchy if you're sending like an 86 Jordan to a non-Big Four company.
Well, that's what I was about to say. Like, I know there's a lot of companies trying to start off in the grading space, and everybody should have a chance, in our system to give it a go. It was interesting that somebody picked a company like you said, Ryan, that maybe not one of the biggest, maybe doesn't have the biggest cards, but maybe doesn't have the best security.
Yeah, I mean, if I was going to send in a card that's, I mean, I don't know what it's comping at right now, but $5,000 plus, it's a Big Four card all day. I would not send it to a company that started like a year ago. The only exception is CSG, but they've been around for much longer. Like everyone over there, I mean, the head grader came from Beckett, well established within the industry, and they have a huge backing between their coin business and also comics. So that is the one exception in the rule right now.
Well, and just to slide off of that for a second, Victor, typically, I mean, we're talking, the Big Four. I mean, is there any way you could justify sending a card of value to somebody else?
Me personally, no. As far as FCG is concerned, to be perfectly honest with you, and I apologize for my ignorance, but up until today, I've never even heard of them. So I found that pretty interesting. And, personally, no, I'm kind of a PSA snob per se. So no, I don't even consider anybody else personally.
All right. So Ryan.
Yeah.
I mean, this sounds like Ocean's 11. I mean, was this like the filming of the new Netflix movie they keep talking about with Adam Sandler? I mean, I feel like we've got crowbars, we've got Jordans.
It should be a scene, like someone sends in a card and it gets stolen at a grading company. Like that literally feels like it should be a scene in the movie.
I mean, I can't wait to find out what else they stole. I mean, if it's at FCG, I figure it's a couple Bowl rookies. There's probably a Greg Jeffries in there somewhere, a Todd Van Poppel, But like you said, why would you send a Jordan there? There's only a couple reasons, and not a lot of them are to maximize value on the backside unless you have to. So, first of all, let me take a step back. To anybody who's robbed, any card shop, any business, that is awful for them. Nobody is making fun of them getting robbed. And just to be clear about that, but it is for our hobby and industry. This is about as exciting as we get in our criminal activities. We're more old school, and Ryan's an expert in a lot of that. And it's usually not crowbars and getaway cars that you write about.
No. But Hollywood movie, maybe we can add in like some high-end luxury cars that go into the front place. They blow open a door and steal the cards. Maybe for Hollywood.
I think that's a fantastic idea. Victor, who plays you in the movie? Is it Brad Pitt? Where are we going?
I don't know.
Great recent video. But, all right. Clearly, you've got a fan club, Victor. Anything else on the card break-in? Otherwise, we got to get Victor to talk about this Mona Lisa. Clearly, otherwise we're not going to get any. We won't get anywhere in this message board.
It's not my Mona Lisa.
So we appreciate everybody's comments. Anything else on the break-in? I'm going to come back to it later. We're going to talk about some hypotheticals, but on the news that you've heard today, I think that covers everything that we can call newsworthy to share.
Hurricane glass. They needed hurricane glass.
Right, from that one video. Right. That's hysterical. Okay. Victor, just share with us what's going on with this Mona Lisa.
Yeah, just real quick. 2022 Topps Gallery. They created a Mona Lisa. Actually, it's like 5 different cards. Most of them are like fictional characters even, but they're like non-sport in nature. They included a Mona Lisa in there, and they ended up putting the rookie card logo on all these cards. And I know between Twitter and some of my friends on there kind of took exception to that. I had a couple of people message me and, hey, did you see this? What do you think about this? So I did my homework, and come to find out, Topps created a Mona Lisa card in 2011 Topps Heritage. And so why would they put a rookie card logo on a 2022? And doing some more research, I ended up finding out that 1992 Pro Set Guinness Book of World Records included a Mona Lisa card. So it's like, okay, guys, what are we doing here? Do we even know what we're doing? Or is it just ignorance? Is it lack of research? Is it, I don't know what it is, but this is a real gimmick.
Can I ask this silly question? Isn't the rookie at the Louvre?
Is it what?
Isn't the rookie at the Louvre? I mean, I think we're missing the obvious one here.
We got an interesting one. Hold on.
Of course, Ryan's got a card for the Louvre.
Well, I mean, it's similar but different at the same time. I mean, you could say then this rookie would be in New York, right?
That's it, right. Actually, that's a one of 2.
There's Allen. I mean, there's I think 1 or 2 of them that are actually graded. So it's
there's a second matching Statue of Liberty.
So there you go.
Separate historical conversation because I'm a historical nerd. But yes, there's an identical Statue of Liberty, separate story. So that's technically a 1 of 2. I don't know if they ever made the card for the other one. So to be fair, maybe not.
Made 3 or 4 years after the Statue of Liberty was constructed.
Really?
Yeah. It's an Allen and Ginter from the 1890s.
That's fascinating. So, Victor, what's going to happen with this rookie card? What are the ramifications?
Well, there isn't any. That seems to be kind of the problem. There's really manufacturers are just doing what they want when they want. There's really no a semblance or following any type of guidelines or hobby traditions that we've had over the course of decades. They're not really they're finding every loophole they can imaginably find with the agreements that were created by the Players Association in 2005, and so they just create more gray area. So if it's not black and white, it's gray, and that's where they're living. That's where they're making their tent.
Yeah. I mean, I do like when non-sports cards are mixed in.
Sure.
But sometimes you have the same types of challenges we have even with the athlete cards. Ryan, I'm fascinated by that Statue of Liberty card. Will you pull that out one more time?
Yeah.
You've got the coolest. We're on the family channel. The coolest stuff.
It takes forever to stuff though.
It almost looks like awesome. Like a newspaper clipping. I mean, that's how it like thin. It seems like the cardstock is really thin.
No, so it's been skinned, so you guys can see like the back's been taken off, which is pretty for a lot of the other 1800s cards. So it'll grade an A no matter what. So what happened with a lot of cards back then is like I mean, if you ever filled an old Judge card before, they're pretty thick stock, but
Yeah.
since people don't want to put those in albums and they don't want to have all the extra weight, they'll cut off the backs. So unfortunately, this is one that has that. You guys can see like the back that's gone over there, and there's a rip over there, but like this is so tough to find.
Well, and I'll speak to that. A lot of times when that happens, also you get a lot more damage on the front than yours has.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, you're literally splitting the layers with, and if there's glue there to not pull through is
so
hard
you
to
can
find.
see like it's, I don't know how well it shows, but this is ripped right there. So I mean, it's gonna get an A anyways. But I thought the imagery was really really cool, and I saw this as like, yeah, you know, this doesn't sell that often. I need to buy that card.
My favorite new expression. Sometimes A stands for awesome. It's fine. Right. Absolutely. So you, as we know, go to a lot of shows. Victor and I, nobody can keep up with you, but we have been watching what's going on. I've seen it at the shows recently. I've talked to people in the hobby, not just prices, but I'm hearing and seeing less total transactions. Transactions, just volume, not even at a specific price point. Are you seeing that when you go around, or are you seeing the opposite?
So like the last 2 or 3 weeks that I've gone to shows, they've been actually pretty popular. I mean, I set up for the first time in months last weekend, and I sold like 2 or 3 grand, and I didn't have my huge sub come in. Like just all like random stuff I've had for a while, and people were just.
But was that a lot of transactions to get to that? I'm not trying to pry into your business, or was it a couple of big?
Probably sales? 10 or so transactions, maybe more. But I mean, a lot of like small sales and just, you know, a couple hundred here or there, and just adds up really fast. But I mean, from a dealer's perspective, I had heard some dealers, you know, don't get sales, but at least from my perspective of walking around shows, a lot of the dealers that don't get sales don't adjust their prices or work with people. I mean, there's still people that won't take a penny off on a deal. And it's like, if you want to attract a customer that continues to buy with you at shows, I mean, assuming like you're even setting up at a large show, like someone obviously traveled to get to that show, maybe they're local or they flew in. Like if you set up at the show again, they might buy from you. So if you're arguing over 5% or like $50 or $25, like in the grand scheme of things, do you want to have that customer continue to do repeat business for you? Or do you always have to go over the edge and win every single deal? I think that's some of the issues that people have when they're trying to get sales.
I was talking to Victor before we went on air, and I was asking, you know, about his experiences in setting up and selling. And he actually shared that he's recently been active as an eBay seller. And you've had a little bit of a different experience. So what's your experience been, Victor?
Well, my experience.
Well, I shouldn't say difference. It sounds like Ryan's doing better than I am in person also.
Yeah. The card shows in my area, you know, attendance has been down. I'm not going to lie about that, but I know on my eBay store, to be honest with you, I'm doing fantastic on my eBay store. I don't see any, you know, I've only been doing it for about a year, but it's still, man, I'm moving stuff.
Are you using a professional model for your stuff, or are you just showing the cards?
As far as
like, do you need somebody to come in to be like the first page, you know, to help you move them, or are you just going to go ahead and show the card? Because I open up with a picture and it doesn't seem to be working. Maybe that's my problem.
Yeah, I'll just showing the cards, man. I think if you know, it's anymore, you know, if you have good cards and you price them right, they're going to move. If you're trying to go 25-30% over comps and that sort of thing, they're just going to sit there. But
global sports card investor, yes, we touched on this earlier, and of course this will be available for rewatch later. But yes, unfortunately, thoughts go out to everybody who works there and anybody whose cards got lost. Hopefully nobody was injured, but yes, sadly, one of the upstart grading companies what was robbed, according to I think Sports Card Radio has been the ones to say it publicly. The company, I think, has acknowledged to a limited degree. And you know, if anybody has better information, let me know. As 100%, I 100% agree with Ryan. As a dad of 4, when I go to the Syracuse card shows, I only visit a few tables who have been good to me in the past, only a certain amount of time in a day. Well, this brings up a point both of you made. And Victor, you brought it up as a seller, and Ryan, you brought it up as a buyer. are people adjusting their prices correctly for the market we're in now versus the pandemic?
Not really.
Mm-mm.
There's like walking around the show. I mean, there's still people that have, as crazy it is, that have like Shaq rookies that aren't even the golds. They're asking for like $50 or $75 on it. And I'm like, seriously? Or like the Jeter SP foil, like thousands over a comp. Those a lot of the cards that have, I don't always say crashing, but like some of those have crashed in value. Then you're like, this was like a year ago or year and a half ago, and obviously it didn't sell, but just don't adjust the price. And I'm sure in some of those cases you can have a conversation with the dealer. Some dealers are like, yeah, this has gone down in price, I'll work with you. Others are like, I don't want to lose money, so this is the price. So, but as like someone, like a casual person walking around the show, not everyone wants to negotiate. They see that price, oh, this dealer's overpriced, and walk away. I mean, like I even have cards that I priced out a month ago. Some of them are up or some of them are down. Just you got to have conversations with people. It's tell them like, look, the market's a roller coaster. I'll work with you. Just put down a price sticker just in case.
Victor, how often do you have to reprice your stuff online, or do you try to price it to move, as they say?
I price to move. I'm typically 20% under comps, typically, and I will make adjustments.
Well, if you're 20% under comps, go ahead and give your store name on eBay. I'm serious. Go ahead and shout it out, Victor, because I'm shopping tonight, baby.
ATG_sports cards.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Evidently, Victor is sending everything to Oregon, so you don't have to pay taxes. You do have to go there to pick it up.
I do think, though, especially at card shows, it's especially egregious with cards not being priced properly. These guys need some schooling or something. I don't get it.
But it goes on both sides of the spectrum too. It's just not modern cards. I mean, there's vintage dealers out there that'll have like a lower grade Mickey Mantle card and slap $500 on it, and you're like, you could get a 4 for $500 already slapped, or even almost a 5 at that point, and there's no way a card gets higher than a 2 or 3 grade. But they're like, well, it's a mantle, so like it goes on both sides. It's just not like calling out the modern.
I will say, if you're a dealer, please don't tell people you can't do it because you have so much into it. That's a you problem, not a me problem. And Ryan, that leads me to a question. As somebody who does do vintage, when you talk about prices and the volatility, I know that the cards you're selling now, you did not buy at the height of the pandemic. I know you're moving a little faster than that. So how often do you have to reprice? And how often, what's your goal on, how long you want to sit on something that's not going to be in your collection?
I mean, really, if I'm going to sit on a card that's not going to be in my collection, the maximum time is like 1 month. There are some exceptions. Like if I go through a dollar box and I find like a super niche card that's like $10 or $15, I'll buy it for $1 and I'll list on different online marketplaces. I'm like, all right, well, this might take 3 or 6 months to sell, but I'm into the card for $1 or $2. It doesn't really bother me because it's like so low capital. But when you buy big stacks or like a lot of cards, you want to move those pretty fast. And most of the cards I move within a week or two.
Do you buy graded, raw, both?
Now I've been buying a lot more raw vintage. I mean, when you're selling raw vintage online, it's tough because the condition to 2 different people is different. I mean, even like graders, you could send a card to 2 different graders that are both trained within the same company. They're going to give you 2 different grades. So like selling it online can be tough in that perspective. I prefer selling them already graded, but like there is opportunity if you buy raw vintage cards, if you grade them yourself and kind of have a perspective where they're at. But the problem is a lot of dealers already put that price into the card, if not more. Like that Mickey Mantle example, like someone will say, oh, this is going to grade out like a 5 or 6. And really it's like a 2 or a 3. And you're like, I'd rather just buy a 5 or a 6 at that price point. You don't have to deal with potential alterations. And like, there's so many alterations which are tough to see even at card shows. Bad lighting, right? Like there's times I buy raw cards, I come home and there's creases in them and I couldn't even see that because of the card show lighting. People recolor cards, which again, unless you're really analyzing a card with the loop or spending all that time, plus you also have min-sized cards or cards that could have been trimmed. And are you going to really like size up everything at show? I mean, if you're buying a raw card over $300-$400, 100% bring out a loop, inspect it, all that. But when you're buying anywhere from like $50 cards or $100, you just have to assume most of them haven't been altered. But it's just tough on that perspective.
Victor, since you said you like PSA, I guess same question to you. Are you typically trying to buy already graded, or do you like to buy raw and send it out yourself?
When it comes to vintage, I just go straight graded. I don't even mess around. On the modern stuff, I will buy raw and to grade. But I wanted to ask Ryan something, and I would love to get somebody to, if they can call in and give their take on this topic, because this is a pretty good topic. But Ryan, I was wondering, do you find when you go to shows, do you think are you getting good deals because you're building a rapport with a lot of these dealers and they're giving you some good discount prices, or how's that working for you?
I think there's a mixture of it. Like, I'm not gonna lie, there is some discounts I get because I do create content, and like if a dealer watches the videos, you're like, hey, I'm gonna give you extra 5% because I watch your videos. So there's no denying that side of things, and anyone that goes to shows all the time and creates content says that they don't. That's BS, because like the dealers watch the videos on YouTube, and some of them want videos and stuff like that. They're like, hey,
Ryan, I'm gonna cut off your mic here in a second.
Right. But at the same time, like if you continually spend money with the dealer, they're going to give you a deal, even if you aren't going to, making content or anything like that. And there's a guy on Twitter, like Ryan's Cards, that literally goes to all the card shows and spends thousands upon thousands across modern cards. And he doesn't really post his deals, but I assume if he's spending $50,000 at a card show, dealers are going to say, hey, you know what? I'll take 25% off my sticker since you give me a lot of business, or 20% off.
Give me a shout out. Yeah.
Right. Because at the end of the day, these dealers want to make money at these card shows, and if someone goes by, it's like, I want to drop $10,000 on your table. What can you do for me? They'll give you a deal.
So
good for you, man. You got to recoup some of that air flight somehow, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing $80 Spirit flights, so.
Spirit is I like to call it the FCG of airplanes.
Pretty much.
Well, Victor, not to cut off your drink there. Sorry about that. I want to get back to your talking about PSA, because I want to get back into kind of a hypothetical. We all, when we heard that somebody was broken into, the first thought is, the chain reaction. Like what? First of all, what happened? But then which company? That was all the conversation. Can you talk about what you think the fallout would be had it been a larger company? Had it been, God, can you imagine PSA?
Yeah, I think PSA. I think,
I mean, would this be on CNN instead of us barely, instead of nobody talking about it?
I think it would be all over news stations worldwide if it was that.
It'd be all over YouTube.
If it was any of the big four, but then you have to look at the scope of the robbery, right? Like, how much larger of a robbery would it be if it was one of those big four rather than a startup grading company?
Well, that's what I'm saying is the implications could have been, I mean, far, far more reaching. You have a company that's got rare cards or one-of-ones and things that are not replaceable.
Right.
I guess the other side is, if they want to sell the cards, it's better to take a more common card. Not that I should be giving tips on this, I guess, but what I mean, if you have cards now, have you lost comfort, Victor, and send them into a grading company, or do you think this is a one-off?
Man, I think PSA would definitely, it wouldn't monetarily, it wouldn't matter all that much to PSA. They would just pay the bill and pay whoever and move on. But I don't see maybe the smaller ones taking a bigger HGA. That would probably be devastating for them. It would finish them off, I think, if they had something like that. The other ones, they can hold their own, and this is why we get mad at PSA with wanting us to insure our stuff, but that's why they want us to insure it.
That's a fantastic point. A lot of people may not actually understand that. Will either one of you feel comfortable explaining the PSA insurance policy?
I don't know the full policy, but when you input your card values on the site to determine what level you're paying for, it asks you like what the insured value is. So let's say, for example, I had like a Mike Trout rookie card, and like obviously the price changes quite a bit between an 8, 9, and a 10. So you just kind of estimate it. Like on that type of card, it's raw modern. Maybe look at middle between 8 and a 9 and figure that's your declared value. Well, if anything happens to that card, that insurance covers up to that declared value, and that's my assumption on it. I know there's probably some terms and conditions and things that are different, but that's what I think it's about.
And I think somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think PSA is the only one who offers that, who does that.
I think SGC does as well.
So if you don't have that, what happens? Do you lose out? Sorry, not sorry.
Or you have to carry your own insurance on the card. I mean,
Yeah.
I know that for business, I have to carry insurance, for shipping stuff, and it adds to my cost of business, to be honest with you. So, which leads me to what a collector's dream. PSA has a vault. Well, a lot of people have vaults, so it's no longer a fad.
Danny has a vault.
Are built in pretty solid. They're not going anywhere. So part of the idea is to get into the ecosystem. I mean, PSA wants to grade for you. They want to go to the vault. They want you to sell it on the golden marketplace, and the other companies are doing that. Do you think this will encourage more people just from a safety point to vault cards?
It's tough because the problem with like vaulting cards is you can't bring them to card shows to sell or like freely. Like now it's at a vault, you're gonna have to pay X amount of fees to get shipped back. Now you're looking at at least a 1 to 2 week turnaround time. Whereas like if you needed instant cash, you could go to a card show, sell off that card, or if you wanted to list it online, whether eBay, MySlabs, ComC, whatever marketplace you want to sell it on, you have that instant opportunity. Plus,
what if you're not looking to sell it? What if you're keeping it for your PC? Would you still want to have it in your hands?
A lot of vintage collectors and a lot of collectors in general want to have that in their hands. They don't trust other companies holding on to their cards.
Victor, you think it'll affect people's psyche, like insurance sales go up after storms come through?
I think so. I think the vault, I think it has its place. You have high-end investors and flippers. They're just looking to flip it, and they don't really need to have possession of it because they plan on getting rid of it on the short term. So I think there is a need for a vault. I think it'll be utilized good. But as far as like the collector is concerned, I think we're more hands-on. But I mean, the fee, I'm going to pay a fee at my bank or I'm going to pay a fee at the vault. Either way, I'm paying.
Now, how many of us go shopping on vaults?
I don't.
or marketplaces that have vaults. Let me rephrase that.
Right. I mean, I bought cards from PWCC. I mean, sometimes there's some pretty unique pre-war cards that I try to get. So,
but you have them shipped right away. You don't keep an account.
I actually have them still in my account. I need to ship them back over.
So you do have vaulted cards.
Yeah, I just didn't want to pay the fee right away because you have to pay for all the taxes and stuff like that, or you could ship it or keep it in the vault and not pay the taxes.
I feel like this is investigative journalism. We have broken this out. So I do the same thing actually, because you do find rare cards in PWCC sometimes, and eBay the same thing, and their vaulting is going to become, a similar conversation at some point because you can defer the taxes and some of those costs. At what point do you say, yeah, maybe I should leave it in there? Eating it right now from insurance, from taxes, from a lot of reasons, every vault seems to be offering 0 storage fees right now.
There's eventually a point I'll get them shipped back. Just right now, I feel like they're right there. Probably 6 months or so. Okay, get them all back over. That way, it's not like one package at a time where it's like 10 or 20 cards that all shipped out.
Victor, you're an anti-vault guy?
I'm not anti-vault. I just don't have the inventory that really needs that kind of stuff.
I have a $29 card in my PWCC vault. Because the thing is, when they break into my house, I don't want that card taken. Everything in my house they can take, but not that $29 card.
Really?
But no, I'm kidding. The reason is it was a rare card that I got on PWCC, exactly like Ryan said. I don't feel like paying for it to be pulled out right now. I'm in no rush for the card. It's not for a client. It's something, it's for my personal collection.
Yeah.
It's there. And like Ryan said, one day I'll grab a couple cards out of there. They'll, 2 or 3 will stack up and I'll get them shipped all at once. But
I've been comfortable using ComC, I'll just leave them in there. And then one day when I want them, I'll just have them all shipped.
That's very similar.
Yeah.
Herman says, I want to see and hold me collection. I like to hold me collection too. There is something, I think, for those of us where the cards, there is a tangible sensory thing that we enjoy. I don't know if it's why the hobby looked down on NFTs, if it's just something ingrained in the sensory process. The tactile. Listen, when you pulled out that card on the Statue of Liberty, the first thing Victor and I, was talking about was the thickness and and the feel, and
Yep.
I mean that's ingrained in us. I mean that's part of the love of the card. Would you guys agree on that?
100%.
And that's why a lot of vintage collectors don't even like grading. They're like, I want to actually touch my card and everything like that. But then you also look at the value perspective of like what grading adds and also kind of the security. So that's a double-edged sword too. That could be a whole on debate.
I want to know the score of the game. Somebody in the comments section needs to help us out.
It might be 4-0 Phillies in the top of the fifth.
Beautiful.
No need to change the channel. We'll keep the updates.
Or nothing.
The updates right here. Bryce Harper did have a home run early on, so his domination continues. Here's a great question: is Bryce Harper in a position to change his image from maybe what it was, and does that help his card values go up?
100%.
Is it because of personality or production?
He's got the resume. He's got the consistency. He's got the looks. He's got the swag.
So
Brings it to the moon.
But he's been good for a while, and I think similar to Manny Machado, people just don't like him now.
That's what I was gonna say. I have so many Manny Machado rookie cards.
Yeah.
And things have not moved in years, like value wise. Even though very consistent year after year, Machado has a very good potential at 500 home runs and 3,000 hits and potentially 100 WAR. I mean, him and Harper are gonna have like very similar resumes when they both retire, and it seems like the hobby goes, whatever.
Well, both of them had issues when they were younger that the traditionalists, I think, were offended by. And I think, Herman, you did not sound like a pirate.
The funny thing too is if they played other sports, people would be like, oh, yeah, I love Manny Machado or Bryce Harper. But because it's baseball and you have all those traditions, people look down on them. But guarantee you if they played basketball or football, everyone would be like, I love these guys.
Machado has done a lot of maturing in the last couple of years, or even taking on like a leadership role in the clubhouse, and he's still producing. I think the kid's gone on the right track.
But I think the market hurts him there, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I mean, it takes a World Series, maybe something good to happen.
I disagree. Because
that might be the Bryce Harper answer. I'm sorry, Ryan.
Right.
I was gonna say I disagree because look at how expensive Tatis cards are.
Well, they were.
They're still expensive, but Tatis still is more expensive than Manny Machado.
Sadly, yes.
So
now, for those of you who don't know, Sports Balt is short for Baltimore. So I've watched Machado since the minors. I'm a Machado fan personally, and I think he's underrated. But I've heard enough people tell me how much they don't like him that I've realized that there is a real thing to that. So
to break down Machado stats or even like Harper stats, I'm gonna load up both of them here on Baseball Reference. Just to
I'll do my best, Chris Berman. All the scoring tonight in the Phillies up 4-0 are coming on homers. Harper hit a 2-run homer at Baum, who seems to be coming at it a little bit, playing more like his rookie of the year. And Brandon Marsh, good acquisition at the trade deadline. So 4-0 Phillies.
Let's go into stats. And so one of the stats a lot of newer baseball guys are looking at is wins above replacement. I know a lot of traditionalists don't like WAR, but at the same
OPS plus.
Well, I was going to talk about OPS plus in a little bit, but WAR kind of adds in everything, both offensively, defensively, base running. It's a complex formula. Now, a traditional Hall of Famer has about a 65 WAR. Now, Harper and Machado are both 30 years old, so they still have quite a while, right? They have long contracts. Manny Machado right now, age 30, 52 WAR, 13 away, which is really good, seeing that Machado had 6.8 this year. And there's a few different types of WAR. I'm just talking about Baseball Reference. Bryce Harper, 42.5. So that is the first stat over there. Now, if you look at traditional stats, a lot of guys are going to say 3,000 hits or 500 home runs, right? That's what we need. Machado at age 30, 1,600 hits, 283 home runs. Already well over halfway point. Bryce Harper, 1,379 hits and 285 home runs. Not bad. Now, batting average-wise, Harper has a 280 career. Machado, 282. Very similar over there. And then we go to OPS plus, Machado career 126, Bryce Harper 142.
That's pretty solid
Right?
data.
Very similar stats. I mean,
Yeah.
Machado's ahead in counting stats besides OPS plus, but Harper has more awards. I mean, Harper was a 2-time MVP, might win a World Series this year, and also Rookie of the Year.
But Ryan, did you watch the game, brother? See the spirit of the game when he hit that home run in the NLCS.
People go crazy with Harper.
Man. When you watch the game and the spirit of the game lights the fuse of hype, all of that's going to change.
So whose value would go up the most? And I'm asking you guys off the cuff only because of the alley bomb homer made me think of it. You know, who's got a chance to actually have prices go up the most? Forgetting Harper for a second, forgetting, you know, Altuve or Yordan Alvarez or one of the superstars. Who could be a sneaker?
And are you talking about like World Series win right now?
I'm sorry, World Series. Yeah,
World Series
win. Yeah. I mean, Schwarber, I think, has done some stuff to help himself. I think Bryson Stott, the rookie, has a chance to actually.
I mean, Bregman has proven that he can do some damage in the postseason.
Well, that's a good one. Does the hobby respect his value enough?
No.
I
mean, you can literally. I have Bregman cards behind me that we're going into dollar box. It's like standard Bowman paper rookies. I mean, they're cheaper than a Wander Franco or any of these other guys. And Bregman has decent stats. I mean, he doesn't have enough data to really figure out if he's going to be on that Hall of Fame track per se. I mean, he's looking pretty good so far. Needs a few more years, but no respect there. And he still hit 38 home runs this last year too, and did pretty well.
His postseason numbers are phenomenal.
Is there a anti-Astros bias? And
there will be for a few years.
Yeah, that's what hurt Bregman was when that debacle came out in 2017.
Well, Altuve has no value.
Korean Altuve
either. Yeah,
Korea Hall of Fame track. He already has 40 WAR at 28, so same exact thing, right? Let's assume he has 5 the next 2 seasons. He'll be at 50, very similar to Manny Machado, above of Bryce Harper.
I mean, I think that there's somebody that breaks out every year that we don't think about. And, you know, whose cards are we sitting on right now that we're not thinking about? And they're going to be the breakout. I think Harper's kind of already done it. I mean, another home run tonight. I mean, yeah, if they win, there's going to be a little bit more. But at this point, I mean, he looks like he's been the MVP in the whole story of the postseason. So,
you know who I think, I mean, full transparency, I have some of his cards, or I shouldn't say some, I have a lot of his cards, but who could be one of those breakout guys next year? Stanton. If Aaron Judge goes to another team, who's going to be the face of the New York Yankees? Like, at least home run wise.
And I'm a big believer in market size for value on cards. So,
like, who would take Aaron Judge's spot as like kind of like the face of like home runs in that franchise?
Stanton, probably.
Yeah. So, and his cards are dirt cheap. I mean, for his stats, he's going to hit over 400 home runs next year, assuming no injuries, right? But he's very injury prone throughout his career, just to bring that out there. But still, I mean, he's going to have the counting stats to eventually make the Hall of Fame if he ends up playing.
Well, the irony is he's got the talent to hit more home runs than Judge did if he stays healthy.
I know.
I mean, would that be a story if he did that next year?
It would, because like if you look at his counting stats right now, his 162 game average, 43 home runs a season. That's what the average is.
And I think that's down because of his health. I think he's got more in him than that.
Judge for 162 games averages actually 49. So Judge is a little bit higher. But like if you look at their stats, Judge is 30 years old, 37 WAR. Stanton right now is 32, 45 WAR. Stanton 378 home runs. Judge 220.
Well, yes. I say Ohtani ends up as a Yankee after his contract runs out with the Angels. I think it's safe to say Ohtani's going to get a lot of money, whoever it is. Yes, if Ohtani ends up with the Yankees, he might be a bigger name than Stanton, but that has not happened. So I think Stanton's safe for a year or two. All right, so I want to touch base on PSA announcing the $15 grading prices, and for a lot of people who have been waiting around to come back down, they've now. Was it just Collectors Club, Victor? Do you remember the
Yep.
do you know the details on this?
Not off the top of my head, but I got the email right here.
Yeah, if you do, I think I remember it was Collectors Club. But the interesting thing they throw in there, they always have clauses under so many dollars, minimum submission of cards. But this is the first time, and maybe I'm wrong, where they gave the year of, I think it was 1996 or newer, that the card had to be 96 or newer. I found that to be an interesting line of demarcation. Can any of you or anybody in the comments think why 96 would be the line of demarcation?
So I was going to say they did it at the National as well on their economy orders. So they did it, I think it was 93 with that. And I think it really goes down to graders because vintage, which I wouldn't call 96 the year for vintage, but let's just assume that's what PSA is saying. A vintage grader and a modern grader have like two different skill sets in a sense, because like if you look at chrome cards versus old cardboard, grading them are, I mean, you have two different ways on it. First, like whether you have surface scratches or you have dimples versus like print dots versus centering, which is more of an issue with vintage cards and how the corners look. So I feel like they're segmenting the two different groups of graders, and that's why.
I love this, what they're doing here. Two things on it that I see: the 1996 to present. It's either they're trying to stay away from the junk wax era. They probably had their fill on grading those, or they're going to do it in segments. They might be 96 to present. This go around on the next round, they're probably going to do a different set of years. So that's kind of my thinking on that. I like the $15 price. I like that they went to a 10 card minimum instead of a 25 card minimum, because to me that when you have a 25 card minimum, now I'm scrounging around for 3 or 4 cards that I'm just going to throw in there. And, I like that 10 card minimum. It really fits in my wheelhouse. And this is a great move for me.
Do they have a dollar cap? Is it $199 again?
$199 cap, which this really fits nicely into set registry guys, 4 set registry guys. We would probably, or I would love to see it come down a little bit more, but I've been waiting 2.5 years, and when I saw the $15 price, I says, okay, now I can get my set registries going again. So I'm excited about it.
Real quick, Kyle Schwarber,
nice
2-run homer, 6-0.
Ex-Cub, by the way. Remember that.
Yep. So
love it.
So to keep talking about this, so how does the new low price by PSA affect the newer grading companies like Tag? This is from my good friend Al. What do you guys think? How does PSA do this, and what do the other companies do to handle it?
I mean, it affects everyone. It's kind of trickled down in that sense, because if it's now $15, everyone else goes, all right, I'm going to send it to PSA at $15 and wait 4 months, or am I going to go with another company and get it back in a month or 2 months? I don't know what the turnaround time is for every single one, but I mean, other companies are going to have to lower their pricing. And I know one of the things for like startup grading companies, what they offer is a lot lower pricing than what it was like $30 for everyone else. So people ended up trying those companies. But if it just keeps on lowering down, it really hurts all those brand new companies.
I'm feeling like it's a delicate balance, right? Like I'm okay with a $15 sub if you stick to the 120-day estimated turnaround time. Now, if you drop it down to $10 and now it's 100 or 180-day turnaround, which actually leads to 365 days before you actually get it, that's where I have issue with. So I think it's a delicate balance on managing the price and the turnaround time.
The newer grading companies won't be able to compete. PSA is buying the grading market to price out the competition. Well, not sure that they're buying the grading market, but PSA has been the 800-pound gorilla for some time. That's not news. But SGC, was equal, if not surpassing PSA, specifically pre-war and into vintage for many years. And it wasn't, I think, until the modern PSA trickled down into some of the vintage that it even became the leader in vintage. So don't count out all the other companies completely. How many cards have Tag graded? I mailed in an SGC 10 card submission on October 20th and had them in today. I actually don't think Tag has opened up fully to the public yet. I think they've done some soft openings and some smaller orders. I don't know if you guys have seen anything different.
I've seen a few slabs, but I'm not sure if they've opened up fully.
Thank you, Royals 417.
Yep. I will say their slab is gorgeous. I saw their slab at the Industry Summit in Vegas. It definitely is the clearest plastic I've seen on anything. And they have taken the etching of the label to basically remove the paper part of the label completely. And I just find that to be a fascinating concept. You know, listen, it's hard to start a company. We were talking about this earlier. And there's good people over there. We all have some friends over there, but wish them the best. It's certainly an interesting analytical approach. And it's funny. Sometimes we want the data, and then sometimes we don't want to know why it went wrong. Like too much. And actually, that's a good question. If you guys could have subgrades on all your cards, would you take them when you got them graded?
I don't really like them on the slab, and the reason why I still think, because a lot of grading is so subjective on it. What's 9.5 to someone else is a 9 to someone else, and what 10 to another grader. And already like the full number is a little bit subjective, so it just adds a lot more to that. Like if a card has subgrades 9.5, 9.5, 9.9 versus 9.5, 9.5, 9.5, 9.5. Like there's such a value difference right now still, even on the modern side of things. I just prefer a full number.
I don't like it on the sub at all, but I do like what like CGC does with their comics. I don't know if they do it with their cards. You're able to punch in the cert number and you're able to see the grader's notes on that comic book.
And that's kind of what Tag's doing, is where you'll have the number, then you get a full report to log on.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. I like the information, but I'm with Ryan. I don't necessarily want it on the slab.
No.
But I do kind of like to know the thought process. Now, with Tag, it's interesting, and maybe, Ryan, you like this, is that you're getting a much more analytical, less subjective approach. That whether or not you would grade with them might be different, but from their perspective, you're going to get a technical answer for your centering or your surface. What do you think about just that theory?
No, assuming the technology work, that definitely is pretty good, where you find out all the information on it, like why you got a certain grade. And I wish there were notes from all the different companies, like, hey, this is why your card is altered, and like pinpoint, like, okay, look, someone trimmed this corner. Here's how we could tell. Like stuff like that would be really beneficial for the collector, because it's the education side of things.
Victor, will you educate me on the comics?
Oh, I don't know nothing about comics.
Or didn't you say? Would you say who does the subgrades? I just missed what you said. I'm sorry.
It gives you the notes that the grader.
The SGC. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, that's CGC.
CG. Okay, that is CGC. Yeah. So that's what it was. That's what I heard. Okay. Tag's 1,000-point scale seems a bit much to me. So did SGC's former. Well, I think what they're trying to do is clearly say that all 9s are not equal and all 10s are not equal, et cetera, which we all know. So I think the theory is to try to pinpoint that down a little bit. Kevin, there's no reason why a grading submission cannot be filmed and sent you via your account. That's a very interesting thought. I think the reason is, Kevin, because it probably go through 12 departments and they're trying to get the cards out right now, but that would be something somebody could definitely do in the future, which would be interesting. And I wonder when you get these digital reports as we move into the future. I mean, even PSA is talking about adding a lot of technology that's not directly tied to the grading itself. So it'll be interesting what comes along with it that they're able to offer.
I would be interested if anybody in the comments section knows about Tags, what Tag is doing on the secondary market. I mean, is it comparable to who?
Yeah, like I said, it'll be interesting once they start hitting that secondary market. Like you said, Victor, I don't know. It's an interesting concept because nobody else is doing that concept to that level. So, like Ryan said, that subjectivity, theoretically is removed. And I heard they ran a test of the same card. Right. Tag has no graders. And I believe I heard on somebody's podcast, I forget who it was, a big guy with a beard. He was talking to Jeremy Lee, and Jeremy said they took the same card, submitted it through the computer X amount of times, and had, I forget if it was a 99.9% consistency rate or something like that. So that's nice to hear. People seem to be glancing over the 200 declared value. How does SGC, CSG, BGS, and TAG compare at 500 and 1,000 declared value levels to PSA? I don't know the individual pricing on every company per declared value, but most of them are pretty similar. It might be a couple dollars either way. I know SGC, I think, is a $1,500 level, but do you guys know off the top of your head how they compare?
I know, yeah. AC is 1,500, but I mean, it goes back into the numbers. Like, you have to think about it when you're sending in a card. Is it worth paying? I think it's like what, $50 for the next level for PS, $30 or $50. I know each they have different levels, but is it worth paying $50 to get a card graded that's $300, or do you want to go $18? Let's say, for example, with SGC, and then it depends on your market, like whether you have a vintage card or you have a modern card. So, I mean, it's all. If you crunch your numbers before you sending in the cards and determine what company you want to go with, and it just depending on the market conditions, how fast you get the cards back, and then where you think you would be able to move it.
And I will also say that if it's for my personal collection, I do like the clearer look of the newer companies, CGC, CGS, and TAG. There's a clarity number on the plastic, and those two are far and beyond everybody else. Ryan, am I correct on that science there?
You're correct. Like, seeing them in person, very, very clear. So it'll be interesting to see if the other grading companies try to adapt and try to get the same type of clearness on their slabs in the future, or redesign it. I think someone said recently, I think it was Neo Cards and Comic, that they were doing a new slab for Beckett. So I'm sure other companies are trying to build out new slabs as well. But
I heard that too, yeah.
I'm sure there's so many prototypes in the background.
Is it fair to say that Rare and TAG are doing the same thing with the approach of full transparency and speed? Well, transparency is something we like to talk about. So, Victor, I'm going to throw this to you because I don't know that any of us know a ton about what Rare and TAG are doing. If I'm wrong, feel free to speak up. But, Victor, you were making a good point about transparency in general, and this should carry into grading as well.
Yeah, it does. I think TAG has done a pretty good job at being transparent. I know they've had, on Sports Cards Live, they had a 5-week thing where they were just really laying out every detail of their business and how they grade cards. And so they've been, like, to me, the most transparent of everybody. But speaking of transparency in and of itself, I've been on kind of a kick with that because I think, I'm going to give the industry a little bit of credit because I want to encourage them to keep doing these transparency things. Now, that to me has been the big issue with the industry, is a lack of transparency. And we have to understand, the industry has to understand that nations are being overturned today because of transparency. We're in the age of social media, and mistakes are going to be exposed. Mistakes are going to be criticized. And so I would like to tell the industry, we got to get our ducks in a row, and we've got to be willing to be transparent, and we got to start talking about miscues, and we got to start talking about distribution of content. You have card dealers that are in limbo, waiting, and they don't know what's going to happen with their businesses, and there's a lack of communication with distribution, and we have to start getting, like, these rookie card issues. We've got to, tighten the belt on this situation again, because it's getting out of control. This year's rookie baseball class is an absolute disaster. It is just so confusing, all the gimmicks that are being put into these things. Why they keep making these mistakes and not giving or hardly any explanation. And it's time, guys. We're in the social media era. We've got to come out of the closet, and we've got to start being a little bit more transparent. Now, they've started doing that, I believe, a little bit in the last month or two. So I want to encourage them to continue on that path, because collectors about had enough here.
Very well said. I think in any business, transparency, actually in life, transparency is a trait to have. Without getting into anything too deep here, honest, open, and sometimes saying my bad or mea culpa is okay. I think most people are willing to forgive more than they're willing to enjoy being lied to or hidden from. So we're heading down the home stretch here. Yes, all the rookies, Kevin, were messed up. Sports Card Show, good show. Thank you. Thumbs up. That is because we have Ryan and Victor with us. There's no reason for PSA to be transparent. Their market share keeps growing without it. Somebody else made a similar comment. Can't completely argue with that from their business perspective, but it'll be interesting as the competition grows. I think they're being pushed more than people might realize from some of these other companies, and Ryan could probably speak to that more when we don't have 3 minutes left. But there is going to be, I think, not the same. I'll say I don't think PSA is going to continue to take 90% of the market share or whatever they have right now. I think you will see some M&A and some real competition there. Transparency is bad in poker. They say there's one sucker at every table. If you can't figure out who it is, then you're it. So the lack of transparency is what we are paying for. If you knew a kid with zero experience was grading your cards, you would freak. Well, I think
they do have grading boot camps at least the majority of the big four companies, and that's what I've heard. Like, they take them through a process, teach them like over a few days. Here's what you need to look for on cards, everything. Like, here's your corners, here's your edgeware. And teach people. It's not like they're hiring someone off the street and throwing them in and say, grade my cards today.
Yeah, I think all those help wanted signs during the pandemic from the graders scared people on the quality of what they were going to get. But I think it's been proven that most companies are being called tougher now, which is interesting. So they're both being blamed as tougher graders and more inexperienced graders all at once. So
tougher than the standards 10 years ago. I mean, or even
well,
longer. Like
on vintage, we see it all the time.
I mean, if you look at some of the old vintage certs, the stuff with like PSA that starts with 0 or some like the old SGC labels compared to what the grading standards are today, they have changed. And no one's going to say they haven't. But like, yeah, I mean, it's the thing in the long run is you definitely want to have accuracy, but it is tough when standards have changed over time.
Well, I know people pay more for the Lighthouse label in PSA just for that reason.
100%.
I sold some Ripken PSA 10 rookies, and the label affected the price of the deal.
Yeah, 100% do. Griffey 89 Upper Deck is a prime example as well. Like, it's a couple $100 at least at a minimum, depending on Lighthouse versus old cert.
Yep. Okay. I saw the HGA behind the scene video and looked like a cluster. Now I see the same image for all grading companies. I wouldn't paint a broad brush. I would say just in life, that's probably not a good approach. So I know they put out a video a while ago. I think it was a little bit of a promotional piece. I wouldn't expect all grading companies to have that same approach as a general comment. Might have some PSA insight with Friday's Sports Card Nation guest.
Did you land
a little teaser there? So make sure you follow John Newman and Sports Card Nation. Nobody works harder other than the three of us. Okay, well, guys, somehow we flew through this hour. Anything else that I have left off the table?
I think you nailed it.
That hour went pretty quick, I think.
It did. Rapid fire.
Thank you, Danny. Great job, man.
Thank you, guys. Thank everybody in the comments.
Yep.
Really do appreciate it. And, please watch us on Tuesdays, Saturday mornings. You can find us on the Hobby Hotline channel, and on Saturdays, Bench Clear Media as well. And with that, we're out of here. Thank you very much.